Late 14th century, pygmy, member of a fabulous race of dwarfs, described by Homer and Herodotus and said to inhabit Egypt or Ethiopia and India, from the Latin pygmae and Greek pygmaios, meaning dwarfish, or of the length of a pygmy tall. In 17th century referred to chimpanzees or orangutans, and during mid-19th century applied by Europeans to the equatorial African race. 2. Chiefly derogatory, a very small person, animal, or thing. From Online Etymology Dictionary. Author's note. While many aspects of the story that follows seem unfathomable, every scene, quotation, and observation is drawn from historical accounts preserved in letters, newspaper articles, diaries, anthropological field notes, and other historical documents. Any conjecture is clearly articulated as such, and solely intended to prompt a plausible consideration of matters for which evidence is not available. At times, Benga's unrecorded and unrecoverable words and thoughts can be inferred from familiar human actions, gestures, and comportment. Throughout the text, the word pygmy, which some people consider a pejorative name for the small forest dwellers of Central Africa, is set off as here, unless used in a direct quotation, to suggest its loaded meaning. This is wholly a work of non-fiction, intended to chronicle the life and times of a man at the turn of the 20th century, a period marked by Westerners' conquest of Africa and its people, and everywhere, it seemed, by an inversion of the meanings of good and evil, black and white. At the presumed summits of civilization, cruelty was cloaked in civility, and a brooding darkness was hailed as light. New York City. Preface. In 1906, a young man from the Congo known as Ota Benga became the subject of headlines around the world when he was exhibited in a cage with an orangutan at the Bronx Zoo Monkey House. Tens of thousands of New Yorkers flocked to the zoo to behold the so-called pygmy, who stood 4 feet 11 inches and weighed a little over 100 pounds. That this occurred in a preeminent American city in the 20th century would seem enough to cause astonishment, but there's far more to the story than meets the eye. While on the surface this appears to be the saga of one man's degradation, of a shocking and shameful spectacle, on closer inspection, it is also the story of an era, of science, of elite men and institutions, and of racial ideologies that endure today. Benga left no written account of his own, and others have filled the gap with conspiratorial silence, half-truths, and even flagrant deception. As a result, what has been officially recorded and recycled in hundreds of accounts around the globe is a flourishing, ever-expanding fiction. So this book is also a story of secrets, lies, denial, and overdue reclamation. Through a forensic-type inquiry, we can unearth missing chapters from Benga's extraordinary journey and in the process retrieve portions of our past from the waste bin of history. As we retrace Benga's footsteps from Central Africa through Europe and America, we find him in the shadow of a lettered elite. In its correspondence, journals, books, photographs, and other historical documents, he clings to the margins, doggedly asserting his humanity, insisting that his story, that our story, be truthfully told. If we lean in, we may hear the muffled voice of a man long thought silenced, and see ever more clearly who we were as the century turned in America's imperial city.